Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advance. This game was played in XTX Market Chess London Classic, and this is going to be an absolutely epic matchup. This is a match between with the white pieces. We have Prague facing off against David Gavrilescu, and this is going to be insane matchup because of the fact that if Prague is able to win this one, he's going to be tied to the first spot, and with that he gets 8 FIDE Circuit points, and with that he is actually secured a spot in the cabinet. So that's going to be very much important. And let's see what Prague does for with the white pieces. He goes for e4. We have e6, d4, d5, and just going for this knight to c3. We started off with the French defense. And now just comes this knight to f6, going for the main line, e5, going for the advanced variation on the Steinitz variation, and here we have knight after d7. We have f4 finally, going all out, c5, and now just comes this t capture. So this is normal structure you'll see because you are overly advancing towards the king side. Black will try to create some counter attack towards the king side, try to deviate from the attack because you have some chances of going for queen to g4 in some of these lines. He just knight to in this position. There's a lot more ways you can try to go on and play in this position. You can just try to go here, you can just try to develop this. You can also go for bishop to d2 in this position, and let's say after bishop to e7, because you can capture that at any time. You don't need to worry about ideas like b4 because just knight captures. So now in this position after knight to f3, let's say you castle, then you have moves like a3 preparing b4, and you don't want to allow b4 in this position. So what you would want to do in this position is actually just go ahead and capture this, and after this knight captures, just go for this very nice bishop to e3 attacking this, and just know that you don't have ideas like d4 in the air because just knight captures, and whatever you do in this position, you're just basically losing a piece. Queen captures, then just comes this. It's just, and just know that you don't have ideas like d4 in this position because then just knight captures, and after this knight captures, queen captures, and bishop captures. You're just basically losing a piece. So not to fall for something like this. Hey, just a6, and just comes this bishop to e2, queen to c7, and finally just going for castles. And now you'll have this open f5. F5 is going to be an idea somewhere along that. F5, f6 is coming, and the bishop is going to be developed here. You can just go ahead, you can go towards there as well. A lot more ideas. Queen to g4 is an idea. Here, rook to d8, you can try to go for b5. It's a lot of things in this position that you need to be careful about, but still white is better and definitely going to be using that advantage and trying to attack. But after knight to c6, here a3 was played by Prague, and now just comes this knight caps on c5, knight to f3 now, and knight caps on c5 in this position was not really a good idea. Maybe you were supposed to go for this bishop caps on c5. I mean, bishop captain c5 just makes much more sense because then you would have just chances of castles, but he decides to go for counterintuitive idea. Let's see what that yields him. Hey, just bishop to e7. Now just comes this bishop to e3 by Prague, and here David in this position just go for a6. And what do you do in this position? Queen to d2 was played, but now finally castles. And here Prague decides to go for a very nice attack with a queen side castle. And now it's going to be basically just, a race between who gets to attack first. And here David immediately realizes this, and nice attack with a move like f5. And f5 is a crazy move because what happens if b4? b4 is a very nice idea as well. And now you're going to have to calculate all of these lines. What happens if a captures? Then just comes knight captures. And if in this position, you're going to have to go for this bishop captures, and now you have f6. And now you must see what happens if g captures, because after this pawn captures, you're just losing the pawn. So what's the point? Well, the point is knight to a4, attacking this bishop, and then you have queen to a5. And once you've brought the queen forward, now you go for this. And now you have to understand that this is going to be checkmate, so you need to be careful. Just go for king to h8, because now if this, then just the rook blocks and everything is fine. And here b3 in this position, just defending that piece, and everything just goes on. White is definitely on the verge of attacking. The knight is jumping in as well. Queen can jump in. The bishop is already eyeing this. It's a scary position, but with the engine evaluation, you can hold. But without the engine, it's going to be a very, very situation to be in. So definitely, I was hoping that Prague would go for something like this. But if it's a main line, then you need to understand that most of these lines are actually covered by these people when they're doing their prep. So it's not that going to be effective. So maybe Prague decided to go against it in this position. That's why queen to f2 was played by Prague, trying to remaneuver and go forward towards an attack. But just comes this knight to d7 and just developing that knight. Now we have knight knight to d4, asking for a trade. Knight captures, bishop captures was played, but now just comes f6. So not going for ideas like b4 in this position. If you look at this position just a few moves back, you had ideas like b4, and you had maybe rook to d8, you had like queen to a5, and now just one or few moves later, you're just going on the defensive. What is the reason? Well, the thing is that you decided to trade in the center, and once you did, my bishop came in alive, and now that is going to be a problem because if this bishop comes in and I have that, you have already played in f6, I have access to the h4 square. These diagonals are going to become very, very weak. And once the king and queen jumps in, the king is going to become very vulnerable. So you don't want that to happen. Now you're pushed on the defensive because of the trade you made in the center. And sometimes that happens. A queen to g3 was played by Prague. A very nice move. F caps on e5, and now just comes f captures. Bishop to c5 now, asking for a trade because that's a very strong piece. But with this bishop to c5, here he gives Prague a little bit too much because after bishop captures, knight captures, Prague just goes for b4. And now you don't have any counter attack in this game forever. With that b4 being played, you will have a5, but that's all you'll get, and Prague will enjoy this game attacking very decently. Here knight to d7 was played, but now just comes bishop to d3, and now you understand what's the problem here, because there is going to be those ideas and you're going to need to be careful. If the queen ever moves, this is going to be very, very stringent, because now the queen can jump in as well, and ideas like that are in the air as well. So you need to be a little bit careful. But after queen to e7 in this position, that's the best move. Now, there was a lot of moves that Brock could have gone for, but to keep his advantage, there was only one. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video, try to find the best move in this position. Once what you see fit, and you're really going to love this one because it's just a mighty attacking move. At the same time, it's a very nice positional move as well. So just have at it. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this idea. It's just a positional move. You don't get a winning advantage right away, but you can get a very nice position. And that move is actually rook h to f1. And it's simple as, that rook is out of the attack. You don't have ideas like h4, h5 because it's a bit too slow. Then if you try to go for the offensive with a5, now you just have this rook captures, and after knight captures, finally just going for with queen to f4. And what do you do in this position? A capture seems like a very nice way to go, but just queen captures, and you don't have the luxury of trading queens. If you trade the queens in this position, then the position seems to be a draw, but definitely white is the one to be preferred here because the pawns are hanging, but it can easily lead to a draw as well. Let's just say knight to d7, then just comes rook to e1. If now rook to a1 check is definitely, on the radar, because after rook captures, king captures, knight captures, you have bishop captures, and once you see this position, you have two central pawns against a one outside passer, bishop and a knight against a bishop and a knight, equal number of pawns. This endgame most likely will be a draw, but still, anyone who is to be preferred in this types of setups where you have traded everything and now you have an outside passer is definitely going to be white. If Prague is able to keep his advantage or not, well, that's a different question. But still, definitely Prague was better here. But after queen to e7, he decided to go against that and goes for knight to e2. And I'm glad he did, because the thing is that what will follow is absolutely manic. Hey, knight to b6, and now just comes rook h to f1. Knight to c4 was played, getting the knight very nicely centralized, but the engine is definitely not liking this. But it's not losing right now. It's absolutely fine. He can play this. But now just comes this rook captures, queen captures, still fine. But in this position here, Prague could have actually again gone for a very nice idea, because now you can see that the queen went towards the e7 and not towards the c7 square. That was because of the fact that you wanted to control this h4 square. But after queen captures in this position, now you've given me access to that square. So how do you actually survive against that? If h6, then I told you queen to h5. This is also a problem now. But if bishop to d7 now, not worrying about this, queen to g6. Thank you very much. And now you don't have a chance or luxury to play queen to f7 in this position. That would be very bad. You can actually lose a lot of material with that. So you don't want that to happen. What you want to do in this position is actually give some breathing room for the king with queen to f2. The bishop is not covering this, so I can actually not have to worry about this. But after queen to h7 check, king moves, now you go for bishop to g6 check, and it's looking very scary because king to e7, you cannot go back. If you had gone back that check, and you just pick up the rook. So hey, just queen caps on g7, but now just comes this king to d8 and queen to g8, and you must be thinking, what have I done? Because now the rook falls, right? King to c7, queen captures. I have just completely blundered a rook, haven't I? Because the thing is that now I can go for a very nice move in this position, and that move is queen to e3 check, because now you don't have any way to block it. Once the king moves, queen caps on a3, and suddenly you were happy about getting a free rook, but now you are wondering about how to stop this mate, and that's how quickly situation can turn. But after queen to a7 check, the thing is that this is most likely going to be a perpetual no matter what you do. But if not a perpetual, you can also try to go for this queen to d4 in this position, protect that b2 square, and even after this, you can already see that position is a bit too much shattered, but it's equal material, and most likely this position is going to go out to be a drop. And Mind you, that position was not actually a perpetual, because the thing is that if you try to go for queen to b8 in this position, let me just show you the line. Because if you try to go for queen to b8 check, you don't have any more checks in this position. Whatever you do, you try to do, let's say, queen to d6 check. Then, but after all of this, here in this position, just knight to d4 was played by Prague, not going for queen to h4, and he has something in mind. He just rook to a7 now, but rook to a7 is a terrible, terrible blunder, because now once the knight has moved, I'm actually occupying the f1 square, and now actually I can go for rook to f1. But you must be thinking, what's the purpose of this? Because I can just go for rook to f7, and that's exactly what was played in the game as well. But here, rook captures, queen captures, and now Prague shows you how to win queen to h4, threatening double things in this position, and you need to be really careful now, because there is only one move which can give you some hopeful chances in this position to try and save this game, and that move is king to f8. You don't have anything else. If now queen to d8 check, then you have queen to e8. If queen to c7, bishop to d7, and it's a very grinding way to be able to try and go for a win in this position. Let's say bishop captures on c4, d captures. Now you go for h4, and you're going to have to find all of these moves if you want to win in this position. H6, king to d2, then after king to g8, just king to e3, and yes, king to e3 can be played because all of these pieces are tied down. Queen has to remain in the defense of the bishop. Bishop has nowhere else to go, and that's the problem. King to h7, then just comes even g4. If queen to e7, knight to e2, and now you cannot capture because obviously this falls. So here c3, but now you can go for knight to g1. If king to g6, even knight to f3, you obviously cannot move forward. Queen to e8, then this comes queen to d6, and if bishop to c6, now finally the bishop is free, but just h5 check, and you don't have any way forward. You're going to have to go back, and once you do, even g5 is an idea. So the attack is definitely coming, and your position is collapsing by the second. The queen cannot again capture, and then just comes even g6, and now you're in trouble, because after king to g8, just in this position, king caps on f3, and you do have a few checks in this position, but you don't have a perpetual, and the position is going to collapse in on itself, and this is going to be a completely losing game, and that's the trouble. But after queen to h4, none of this was played. King to f8 was not played in this position, but now here much worse move was played here. G6 was tried, but G6 just completely wins the game for Prague, and Prague finds the right idea, as he always does. Here just bishop caps on c4. Now just comes this d captures, but just queen to d8 check. King moves, king to b2, and here bishop to b7 was tried. It seems to be a much better version of the line that I showed you, but that's not the case. The line that I showed you was only because of the fact that you will be able to understand this endgame much, much faster now, because now just comes g4, but you have h6, h4, and you realize that we are reaching about to be the same position, because here after bishop to d5, just g5 was played, h captures, king to h7 was tried, but now just comes queen to f6. And the trouble for you is you cannot even go for this queen caps on f6, because after e captures e5, if you try to push the pawn and you think you're just faster, knight to e2. If bishop to f3, attacking the knight, now I have even a very nice idea, knight to c3, and if pawn pushes, knight to d5, you cannot push, knight captures. I have two connected passes. I can get the king into the game through the dark squares, and this position is far completely over. So he realizes this. He goes for queen to a7, but after queen to c3, just a5 was tried, but just knight caps on b5, a free pawn. Prague says thank you very much in the endgame. A caps on b4, king captures. Queen to e3 was played, but now just comes queen to f7 check, and Prague goes for a very, very smart way in this position to end the game right on the spot. Here in this position, king to h8 was played, but now just comes queen to f8 check, and king to h7, and you think once this position is now finally going for a perpetual, but that's not the case, because after king to h8, Prague realizes that queen to e8 check completely wins the game, because here after king to g7, now just comes this very nice move, which is queen to d7 check. And now what he is doing is basically he gave all of these checks. He's gonna go forward, and after this he gives a check here, and that connects very nicely with the queen. King to g8, queen to d8 check, king to g7, queen to c7 check, king to g8, and after queen to b8 check, king has to go to g7. You have no way forward, and now queen to a7 check was played, and in this position, a very nice pipeline here, getting all the way through here and just ending the game on the spot, because here in this position, David resigned the game, and Prague got the spectacular victory. With that, he also won the London Classic, actually shared the same place with Velimir Ivic and Amit. And the thing was that now, with 8 circuit points, he has actually secured a place in the candidates, and he is coming from for everyone. He's out for blood, and he must be looking for redemption in candidates 2026. And it's going to be an absolutely spectacular candidates. Let's see what he will be able to accomplish there. It was a spectacular win by Prague. Then the game is it's gonna and the game is really, really on, because and even in this position, if you're wondering what happens after queen captures, the thing is that if you trade queens in this position, the end game is completely lost. Let me show you how. Because if c3, then just comes this knight to b5, bishop to e4, king caps on c3. That's a simple pawn. You cannot save that pawn and keep it on the c4 square and keep the bishop locked in, because this pawn pushes. And here after this, king to f8, knight to d4, king to e8, king to b4, it seems like the king is getting in and you have in a position. Not really. Knight to b5 check, king moves, here just going for c4. If bishop to d3 now, I have even knight to d4 going after these pawns. If you go back, I can just trade, and even that would be winning. Let me just show you that. If you block with this, then just comes this very nice knight caps on f5, e captures king to d6, and all I have to do is just push this pawn. Because of king to c8 trying to blockade the pawn, e6, king to d8, e7 check, king blocks, but now, unfortunately for you, I have c5. If f4, you think it's a race, that's not a race, because now after this, you're just getting checkmated. King moves, this is actually checkmate. Your king doesn't have any squares, and that's the way it is. So here in this position, after queen to a7 check, David realizes this and he resigns the game, and Prague gets a spectacular victory, which is going to be one such towards his line trying to challenge Kokesh towards the World Chess Championship. And let's see if he's able to do that or not, or let's see if he can achieve something greater, because the rating points are also something that he would be considering trying to become the highest rated, even 2800. And let's see where that takes him, because this is going to be, because the game is really, really on, and the challenges and the hurdles are a lot there. I mean, he had a great start to the year, but he did not have the great end to the year. But let's see what 2026 brings for Prague. And hopefully it's going to be really amazing, because he has been playing some spectacular. I've covered a lot of his games from this tournament as well, and he has played some tremendous chess. So let's see what he does there as well. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games. So stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching.